Welcome to this replay of an enraged, kvetching, and whining and crying really over something that's really bad. Are we waking up, people? Are we waking up? No, this is in reverse. The technology, online education is so bad that this is showing mirrored. That's how bad things are getting. But, you know, we don't want to be dramatic here. This is Anthony Metivier from magneticmemorymethod.com. And we're going to do some memory news, some mailbag. If you're watching the replay, hit the thumbs up. Let me know that you saw this live. Doing maybe a few too often lives this week, but if you're new to this, basically what we do is we get on, we see who shows up, and answer questions about memory improvement, and talk about the issues of the day sometimes with memory and what's going on with learning, with education, and really dive into the things that are important to us as a species when it comes to memory, improving our memory. And I was reading this morning a really nice book here, George Washington on leadership, which, you know, is mirrored on our screen because of strangeness with technology. But there's, you know, something beautiful about using memory techniques to read, which is you can remember things. So one of the arts that we work to preserve, to save, to make sure that we're still using our minds is our memory techniques. And perhaps later, as more people show up, I will recite the dates that I memorized, 4 dates here, when reading this. If you think that would be interesting, hit the thumbs up. Let me know that you're here. Let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, and what you're thinking. And there's something so really angering that I saw today in the world of online education to talk about and to rant about, really, to rave about. It's worth raving and ranting about because it's so against all of education. It is against humans. It's against humans, and it has to do with bots and how they're messaging and the future of learning, the future of education. And that people who are promoting the future of education would use these kinds of bots is really frustrating and quite frankly a little bit worrying and worth getting up in arms about. And part of the whole thing too is that there's very recently an important and a very important video that I saw of a teacher resigning her position because of what is happening in the education system. And it is something that we definitely need to be chatting about and getting together about, because so many people, they tell me these memory techniques you teach, they should be taught in schools. You should teach these memory techniques in schools and so forth. I'm not an educational reformer, but it's very, very important to understand the real role of where these techniques should be taught and not leave it up to institutions, because the institutions can't even teach teaching. So if you're joining us and that sounds good to you, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world. And we're going to, you know, we can do some memory training and we can do some memory talk. I'll share with you some dates that I memorized from this book, how I did it, why that I was able to do it just by thinking really once about what I was going to do in my memory palace and so forth. We really are doing what we can to demonstrate the practical use of these skills, but there's forces in the world. Sorry, I'm looking away here just to look at this video that I want to share with you later as well and play it, because I think we should listen to it together, listen to this education person, this obviously very clearly passionate and profoundly capable teacher quitting, resigning because of things that are going on in the education system and the source of this, and really give responsibility where it's due and try and think about our role where we take responsibility for these things, because it's very, very important that we understand these issues. So in any case, this is a cool book. We'll talk about this a little bit as well, but what's basically going on is there was a post on the internet this morning, and I'm not going to name names here, but what got me up in arms, so to speak, and I'm really passionate about this stuff, not only because I have an opinion, and not only because I have scientific data behind it, but I'm passionate about it because I had the opportunity to work on something exactly like this, and I turned it down for the precise reasons that I saw unfolding on my screen. So I'm not going to name names of the company and so forth, but it's really disappointing that they are doing this. And so it's for a conference about the future of education, essentially. And the post that they're spreading around, you have to send a message in order to get any information about it. And within a few seconds, you're just bombarded with a robot that asks you if you'd like a tour of the event, and then, good choice, clappy, clap, clap, clap emojis, and yes, tell me more. And then you click, and then, your words are entered. Yes, tell me more. And then it starts to tell you about this, and it just bombards you with a number of texts really quickly. And your eyes don't even have a chance to accumulate any of the information. And it's emojis and little symbols and stuff, and all these dates and locations just flashing up on the screen. And I stopped, but now it's got this sort of like, let's continue versus, nah, I'm done, right? So why is this bad? Why is this bad? Well, let's talk about it. If you're joining us, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world, and get involved. It helps open the floodgates in your brain. Just a little typing, yes, I'm here, yes, I hear you, I'm from this place. Actually, it makes engagement increase. We know this for a fact. We're going to do some mailbag here today, and talk about bots. And not bots in the sense that I talk about bots, which is boring old technology succeeding. Beautiful old technology succeeding. Actually, it's not boring at all. The Memory Palace is beautiful old technology succeeding. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I sometimes have that primacy effect, as they call it in memory, of the boring, because the bots originally comes from a guy who I've learned a lot from, named Jonathan Rivera, and he had the bots acronym for how you can use certain technology to help run your business. And so we were talking about business fundamentals, and at that time I called it boring old technology succeeding. But when it comes to memory palaces, it's beautiful old technology succeeding. And I'm going to recite some dates that I memorized from this book. Test myself, actually. Show you how I test myself. So if that's interesting to you, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world. I'm kind of going to not really do these things without some more engagement. It's more and more important to see that humans engage with humans through the technology, not getting bombarded with bots like I did from this. I just wanted to know about this event, see if it was something for me. I have to send a message, and then all of a sudden I have to interact with a bot to unlock what should really just be a page that says, here's where the event is, and so forth. And so I'm like saying to you guys, hey, hit the thumbs up and tell me where you are in the world. We're live right now. You take advantage of it or you don't. But now, just to find if I want to register for an event, I have to interact with a bot. I don't want to talk to machines, okay? I just want to interact with a machine and use machines to talk to other humans, right? Through traditional things like writing to humans, right? To making videos for humans, which is, not that traditional, but in motion picture cinema history, we've got a tradition from at least 1895 till now where people could use film, celluloid film, as a information storage and retrieval device. You could put information into a containment thing, and you could then move it through trains and planes and automobiles to other places, put it up on a reel, project it onto a screen, and it would go into the eyes of people and into their brains and into their minds. That's really awesome. I don't have anything against that. But when I just want to know about how to get into an event and I have to start talking with a robot, I don't know, I just want to know the dates and the location without 1,000 emojis coming on my screen. It wasn't 1,000. I'm exaggerating because I'm a little annoyed here. But I just want to interact with this information. And what we're finding is information is being compressed into smaller and smaller places, and it's just frustrating. It's frustrating. It's against human communication. It's against words. It's a newspeaky thing, and we got to do something about it. So Seymour's here from Minnesota. Hello, Seymour. Thanks for saying hello. Emerson's here. Oh, great to see you as always. Emerson's at work, was doing some memory work, memorizing the rune wheel, and opened my eyes, and there you are. Well, good that you're here. Thank you so much. And if you're joining us, let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking. Hit the thumbs up. Seymour says, took your Branding U class. Great stuff. Well, thank you for taking that. I'm really glad that you're here as a result of Branding U. Awesome. Emerson says, back to work, but totally get it with the emojis. Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things with the emojis is, okay, so hieroglyphics used to exist, right? Not going to say that emojis couldn't be as sophisticated as hieroglyphics, and I don't even know if hieroglyphics are as sophisticated as emojis because I don't know enough about hieroglyphics really at the end of the day. But the thing is, right? We're trying to wake up here, wake up. Is this mirrored still? I don't know. But we want to really have human communication preserved, not transformed and evolved in a way that lacks meaning, especially when we have so many age groups. And it could be that I'm just kvetching here because of my age group. I don't know. And maybe the young people totally get it. Maybe the young people like when they want more information about basically an ad on Facebook. They want to click it, and then they want a robot to talk to them and say, hey, are you really interested? Click here. And then now, in order to continue to learn more, I have to learn more. So is it like a sales trick that they think that the more that I engage with the bot, the more likely I am to ultimately buy the ticket for the event? Or what? I don't know. But the botification is really, really not a pleasant experience when you just want to know, hey, is this for me or isn't it, right? And all of this stuff where the coding is hiding parts of the screen and you have to click and reveal certain things, that has its place. But when now it's like you have to actually answer a robot, it's just not a cool experience, and I hope that this doesn't evolve because, and again, as I said at the beginning, I'm especially sensitive to it because I turned down a very lucrative job that I was offered at one point that had to do with designing this for education, and I just thought this is so against human understanding. This is not what we need, and we don't have any evidence that it will, and why experiment in that place, in that way in the first place, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go along. Sandra is here from Northern California. Thank you for being here, Sandra. Let's see, memory test at 3 p.m. in Australia, at 7 a.m. in the Netherlands, which should be 10 p.m. in California, and we had 12 a.m. somewhere in Mexico, right? Is that right? Julie says, hi from Northern California. Thank you for being here, Julie. Sandra says, the only icon on my screen never shows an emoji. Julie says, bravo. Thank you, bravo. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, bravo. I got some more numbers I'm going to talk about from this book. I want to make it more real to you guys what you can do. I'm actually fighting against the forgetting curve now, and I'm going to test, and I'm just going to, I'm going to see that it works, see if I did okay in these dates. And it's like that dead air on the screen from the last time. I was really interested in that. I was like, I'm not going to go watch my own replay. But I was just like, I wonder how long it did take to get that second line back. And anyway, this is my resistance to doing memory demonstrations is because it can be really boring to watch. But as Julie reassured me, it is not, apparently. But yeah, I'm going to test my memory. And to test, we have a notebook. Then we have the source material. Now, normally this source material would be far away. And I would then go to a cafe and write this down and test what I did. I'm going to talk you through it, walk you through it. If you're interested in that, stick around. And we'll talk about why I said no to working on bots in education, even though it would have been very lucrative, for sure, especially given, well, I mean, I might be a little bit ambitious here, but given what I know about things, I think I could have made it be very successful, this particular project. And it may well be without me, but I couldn't get involved because it was just too much against what I think is important in education, and we want to listen together a little later here to a resignation speech from a teacher who, just had to get out because of what's happening in schools, and it's just super sad what's happening in that education scenario. And it's really weird. I posted this, and it looks like somebody has even removed my post, my response, which is interesting, right? Have I been censored? I can't really totally tell, but it looks like I've even been censored. Amazing. Where did it go? That's weird. Maybe I better press refresh on this. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, one of the things that I'm quite concerned about is that things are being removed from the internet that are critical of certain things because, I don't know. I want to avoid being paranoid here, but I think we need to stand up and we need to notice and we need to pay attention and have discussions about these things because there are things that are uh, going wrong. Julie says, I've decided I'm going to go back through from the very beginning of the Magnetic Memory Method courses. I'm excited to see what I've forgotten and what I have remembered. Makes me aware of how much info you provide us. Just don't want to move into overwhelm. Great, Julie. You know, most courses that I have purchased, I've taken more than twice, right? It's just a fact of learning that once through isn't enough. It just isn't enough. Once through a book isn't enough. I remember, sadly, he passed away, but my dad had a friend named Walter, and he was like Uncle Walter. He wasn't really an uncle, but he he died anyway. He was drinking and driving and fell his whatever. We won't get into the scene, but he died, and he impressed on me something that I never forgot. I was in high school at the time, and he told me that he always reads his favorite books once every 7 years. And he said the reason why is that he is completely refreshed as a person. His all his cells, maybe not every single last one of them, but many of his cells have regenerated, and he just felt like it was a completely new book. And so I always kept that in mind, and I've done that a lot in my life. And I try to reread one book every month. And usually I pull it off. I'd say 10 months out of the year I manage to do that. And with audiobooks, it's much easier, right? To go through books again. And I'm trying always to read 2 books a week, new books, right? And so right now I'm just reading George Washington on leadership. And I thought while I'm reading it, I'll work my memory. I don't really need to know his dates in office. And there are actually 4 dates of office, right? Because there was when he was commander-in-chief, and then there was when he was actually made the president of the United States by the Congress. I'm not even American, right? So, like, do I need to know all this stuff? I don't know, but I'm very inspired by American history and what it established for freedoms and how new it was and all these things. So, yeah, why not? Why just read passively about this, right? When you could actually remember those dates. And then I could compare them, because I know when Matteo Ricci was born. I know when different people were born, right? Like, I'm thinking Peter Ramus here, when he was born, because I memorized these dates, and then I can snap George Washington into my understanding of the evolution of human thought and how those things fit together for freedom. So what these memory dudes did, right? And then George Washington. Now, when you add those dates in, you open up your perspective, and you open it up because it's in your mind, right? You don't have to refer to the book and be like, or just go to Wikipedia, right? You don't have to do those things. You can do it in your mind because you remember. And, well, this is part of what is called ars combinatoria, which is the art of combination, which is part of it's a snap-on to art of memory, ars memorativa. And when you have those 2 things working together, you're in a really good place. But you got to actually use the techniques to memorize the information, or you could use rote learning. But having those dates in mind is very good. So I was thinking when I was reading this, yeah, why not pop that into my mind, right? And I'm going to test myself and see how I'm doing, and if I need to make any corrections, I will. But in general, Julie, rereading, going through courses is very good, because there's something called memory reserve as well. And memory reserve is like random access memory, right? If you imagine your memory not like a sponge, which some people want to make it like, but an ever-growing, ever-expanding jar, right? And in the jar, there are some stones, and in the jar, there's some sand. And as you go through, you build memory reserve, and some of that reserve is the big stones relative to the sand, and the sand can help those stones really settle in deeper and then create very, very hard structures, very palatable structures that are actually healthy to have. So I'm weaving a bit of a metaphor here, but it's an important one, because the more stiff and firm and in place these things are, the more you're going to be able to draw upon that reserve because it's really deep in. And one of the ways that you get that reserve is through repeat exposure to information that you've already gone through, because you've laid some stones in the sand, they've settled a certain amount, but you can pour more sand around them, and you can even add more stones to fortify what you've got in there, right? And so when you reassess a training, when you go through, and there are some things that I've gone through 10 times, right? And just you keep adding. It's not because you forgot everything or you forgot anything. It's because there's just things that never got added to the wall in the first place. And one of those things is perspective. And this is where the art of combination is so powerful and important. If you don't have perspective, then you never have that sand, and you never have the stones, and you never have additional stones that can be added to support the other stones. And maybe some of those stones actually need to be moved around, which is another thing that the tool of perspective can do. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Julie. Thank you, as always, for being here, and really appreciate that. So Julie says 2 books a week. Wow. I like the reread every 7 years idea. Yeah, so Walter, sad that he's gone, but he really installed that in me. And it works for novels too. It works for novels too. You'd be surprised by just how different that book seems. It almost seems like a new book altogether. So I like to reread Stephen King novels, actually. I mean, I do it for other authors, but the ones that I've reread in recent memory are Firestarter and The Running Man. And I also got Misery, which I'm going to reread in the near future here. And it's just amazing how different they are and how much more profound they are. It's like seeing an old movie again. It's fun. It's good. It's good for your memory. It adds more of this sand and more stones, and you can shift them differently and fortify them differently, and generally have a better memory and a better experience. So anyway, I guess not going to give specific details about who this company is, but what ended up happening to me and why that I didn't get into this kind of stuff with bots was just, imagine, so Julie's here in the masterclass, and, you decided that you're going to go back in of your own accord and go through the material. Imagine, though, a version of the masterclass that I don't want to create because I've got an idea for something way better. But imagine a version of the masterclass which I was invited to join a company that would build this, exactly this. And so you join up, and then a little robot version of myself, right? Like a little picture of my head would show up on your cell phone, and it would say, hey, did you train yet today, right? And then it would know through the technology whether you've been in the masterclass or not. It would know which video you were in the masterclass, and then it would say, by the way, now it's time to do X exercise and so forth. And then the next day it would say, hey, good morning. I noticed you didn't do your homework, And I thought deeply about this, charted it all out, maps, diagrams, all the stuff. And I saw instantly how poisonous this would be. Poisonous for the art of memory. Hello, Sumit. Good that you're here. Thanks for being here. If you're just joining us, do let me know where you are in the world. Hit the thumbs up. Leave a post. And this system, first of all, it's a Hydra, because you could never build enough tailored messages to ever be meaningful for the real actions that the real student did. That's why I want to play this video later for you, to listen to this woman resigning as a teacher. Because here's what it is. Here's what education is. Teacher and student meet each other halfway, right? And educational materials are of a different sort, different genres and so forth. But if that doesn't happen, and I mean really meet each other halfway, right? Not bots, but really the teacher being able to understand where the students is at because they really understand. Not because they took some sort of digital action and then a bot triggers off a response like I just went through this morning. That is morally disgusting. That's actually morally disgusting. And it's very, very disgusting in the world of memory. And education in general. It's really bad that it's even going in this direction. So I had the chance to do this, and I would have gotten the technology all for free by virtue of my labor in helping the company develop this. And I actually, still can do it for free, but I don't want to because it's not true. it's not true to the student, it's not true to the tradition of memory, it's not true to education, it's not true to what we should value about education, and it's not true to anybody in the world. It's not true to the future generations that are going to need focus, concentration, discipline, clarity, consistency, and competence, okay? And I've read some books by futurists who they're very more optimistic about how the younger generations are going to adopt all this sort of stuff, but they say really strange things about how they're going to brace themselves for having 30 different careers in their lives and so on. And yeah, okay, maybe there's a place for that in the world. Maybe that's going to be okay at the end of the day. But here's the thing, though. There's a thing called mastery. There's a thing called expertise. For some reason in the modern world, expertise we've become quite suspicious of expertise, which is sad. And I understand the reasons why, but if you want to be a master of anything, you're going to have to focus on it and not have 30 careers, right? If you want to be an expert in something, you're going to have to focus on the knowledge and not skip around and be freelancing in a dozen different things just because, you know, things got too tough and you skipped out, or this or that got outmoded or bodified or whatever. There is always going to be a place for mastery. There's going to be a place for depth of knowledge. There's going to be a place for expertise, and you're either going to have it or you're not. And it's going to be based on what your skills are that you develop and what time and energy you give to showing up consistently to those things. And so when I see a teacher, an award-winning teacher, resign in public, and I mean, this is old news, but it's new to me, it really breaks my heart because this person's obviously a very good person, and we're going to listen to this together. Let's check in with our chat here. Sandra says, several times a year I choose a favorite author or topic and reread all the books in my library. Reading a series in a few weeks that took over 15 years to acquiesce gives a wonderful perspective. Yes, awesome. Julie says, yeah, that's a bot. Always wondered. Yeah, well, bots mean different things, but in general, that's what a bot means. I think of, in the world of memory, in a way, memory palaces are kind of bots also, but they're beautiful old technology succeeding, right? Maricella's here. Hello, Maricella. She says, I like to read several parts of the book, listen to videos during the day, and you're in McAllen, Texas. Oh, I'd love to visit McAllen, Texas. I like this guy on YouTube, Matt Dillahunty. He's in Texas. Do you know him? He's pretty cool. He's doing lots for educating people. In any case, let me test my memory here. And this might be a little bit slow, might be watching the paint dry, maybe the uninterested people will leave. Sorry about that if this gets boring, but I'm going to write down some numbers here in my notebook because I want to see what I did. And so basically in a corner of a memory palace, there's some tax, I remember, and then there's John Cale. So George Washington is pushing tax into John Cale, okay? And do you know John Cale? Does anybody know John Cale? So tax 17. And Cale, K is 7, and L is 5. So we got 1775. 2. Now, if memory serves, we then had George Orwell with the cast of fame shooting out foam. So I didn't do a number for 17 because I know it was still 17, but we got 17, and Animal Farm, George Orwell shooting. And this is when George Washington would have become commander-in-chief, and then when he would have retired from commander-in-chief. If I'm remembering this correctly from the pages I read in this book, we're going to test here. Now, the next set of dates is when the actual the Congress created the position of the President of the United States and gave it to George Washington. This book is about George Washington, right? Yes, George Washington on leadership. I'm not American, so I don't know the American presidents very well, but it's not Abraham Lincoln. We're talking about George Washington here. And so then the next set of dates, see, now I have the recency effect not working in my favor, but I'm also trying to do this while talking. Let me see. Oh, Pink Ribbon is here. Finally managed to see Anthony live after a long time. Happy. I'm happy you're here too as well. Hit the thumbs up if you're just joining us. Let me know where you are in the world. Memorizing some dates here. And then the next dates would be, I remember it was the spring because I put in a spring image for when the presidency was created for him, but I'm just trying to think what was it that I put there. This is challenging. I'm going to come back to it in a second here. But I know it's got to be 17, right? What were those images? Oh, it was a viper. It was a viper because Cobra Commander was there. So that's 89. 1789. I hope this is right. Oh, I might get embarrassed. Might make a mistake. But I didn't rehearse this enough times. That's the thing. Once that you encode it, you've got to rehearse and you've got to rehearse. But what was that viper doing? That's the question I got to ask myself. And the viper was with a, it was with Peter Parker and a hockey puck. So if we just, all you have to do, right, is you just have to think about what is the major method telling you, right? Because it's Peter Parker for a reason, and it's because it's grounded on the major. So P is a 9, right? And then the K is a 7, so it must be 1797. So this is when he was Commander-in-Chief, 1775 to 1783, and this is when he was the actual Congress, and I think it said it was in the spring of 1789, and then he retired in 1797. Whew. So easy, though. I only read this once, encoded it in a memory palace. Now I'm testing, and we had a lot of fun with the last time. Were you here the last time? If so, hit the thumbs up. Let me know in the chat that you were here and you saw my Chinese lyric memorization. I didn't memorize what page this was on, but I'm sure that I could, but it looks like I have a bookmark. But if I can memorize those dates, I can definitely add on the page. And then I think it was March that he retired from the presidency, and it just said the spring of Viper, so 1989. Should be Viper. Yeah. So let's see here. What do we got? I'm not sure. Oh, I should have added June to my 1775, but there we go. 1775 was when he started. 1783 was when he left after a bunch of battles and stuff as Commander-in-Chief of the military. And 1789 was when he joined the presidency, or he became the president. Congress named him president. And 1797 was our last date. There we go. So, and March it was. Did I say March? I can't remember now. Anyway, let me know in the chat, are memory demonstrations boring to you or exciting? I always have not wanted to do them very much because I know when I see the memory guys doing them, I find it really boring. But that's how it works, basically. You sit, you read, you make some cool images, you put them in a memory palace, and then you test yourself. And you just ask yourself. And sometimes you'll be like, oh, what the heck was that? Maybe the odd time you make a mistake. But that's how it works. That's how it looks like. I know a lot of people ask me this. Could you give a practical example of how you use it in everyday life? Well, when I read books and there's cool information, I memorize it. And why? Well, because I can create new knowledge. Now that I know, I never knew this in my life before about George Washington. I never knew this. I never knew that was, I didn't even know that he was Commander-in-Chief of the military before that he became the president, right? I didn't know that there was actually these two phases. So now I know more. I know more about history. I know more about the amazing, absolute amazing founding of this great country, the United States. And I now just can lock it on to other information that I know and other dates. And this is how knowledge grows and how it works. And you can do it that fast. Now, if I want to remember it over the longer term, I just have to repeat it a number of times. Dominic O'Brien, of course, has the rule of 5, the famous rule of 5. I don't follow that dogmatically, but it's a good number to follow. But, you know, you want to know your own repetition cycles. Other people, I've heard Phil Chambers cite different numbers in the mind mapping world for memory. It's really up to you. You got to figure that out. No one's going to give you a magic number. But that's how it works. And I have so much fun. And you know what? It feels so good. Even the risk of it feels a little good. Knowing you might make a mistake and look like an ass kind of feels good. So get out there. Take some risk. Take some risk. So Pink Ribbon says, is Anthony talking about the education system? I remember when he talked about the multiple choice tests in another live. Yes, I am. We're going to listen to a video together. Sumit says, it's really exciting. I'm from India, the one who praised your voice yesterday. Oh, Sumit, thank you so much for your kind words about my voice the other day. I'm glad. You know, we have this issue. A lot of people were saying that my podcast was too loud, so I turned down the volume. I released a new episode yesterday, and the next thing you know, I'm getting emails that it's too quiet. But you know what's so beautiful about it, though, is that it's humans responding. It's humans responding. If you're just joining us live, hit the thumbs up. Let me know in the comments where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking. And we have already gone through one thing that just absolutely enrages me about the education, the future of education. And there's just the present of education as well. Look, it's very good that you're all here. Thank you for being here. And I appreciate it very much. And we want to just at least know about these issues. Maybe it's a bit clickbaity, this enraged thing, but I am actually legitimately enraged when I see a good teacher, as we're going to listen to in a little while here, resigning. And the things that she's saying, a very intelligent person, I have no reason to doubt her report. I have no reason to doubt it at all. And I'm sure with greater research, one would find that it's all substantiated and so forth. I'm going to click the like button on that video. I didn't do that yet. It's very important to support the things that matter, even if it's just a little micro thing like that. And leave a comment and so forth. And I'd love to have her on the podcast, because this seems to me the most important thing in the world is to take care of our education system, to take care of the future of education. And yes, memory needs to be a part of it, but we also got to preserve the information that we want to memorize, because there's something really really weird about how everything is being forced into smaller and smaller amounts of space, and how that everything's being optimized for mobile. And, you know, we got to rise to the challenge, of course. We got to make sure that we still get this message through to mobile for the health of successive generations. And I hope you'll be a supporter of this through whichever way that you can. But this is a real challenge, because just the word memory improvement, right, has a lot of characters in it. How are you going to make a meaningful sentence about memory improvement when the actual idea of memory improvement, you know, has lots of characters in it? What are you going to do when someone needs to be an expert in something like triskaidekaphobia, right? Maybe there needs to be experts about triskaidekaphobia. How are you going to write a meaningful sentence on Google that's going to get the good information about it on page 1 of Google, when you're only allowed to use 155 characters to describe why someone might want to read that article about triskaidekaphobia and not another one? What about architectonic tautology, right? What if you're studying knowledge? What are you going to do, right? What are you going to do if you're learning Latin and you can't find out the right page that you want to be reading about Latin because Pregnans Constructio has been written out of Google search algorithms? What are we going to do, right? So we can't at all relegate this to the machines. We have to be very, very enraged and do something about it, I think. But not unhealthy enraged. Not unhealthy enraged. We have to be calm. We have to do our satanama stuff. I was memorizing some Sanskrit yesterday also to keep up the meditation practice. And so regular, consistent work with your memory, with real knowledge, with knowledge that helps improve your life, is always going to be a going concern. It's always going to be a going concern. And let me know in the comments if that is something you agree with, or do you just not care? I mean, I'd love to know either way. I'm not going to assume that if you don't get engaged and participate that you don't care, but it does provide data about what's important to people, for sure. Silence is a means by which you surrender your control, for sure, over whatever's going to happen, whatever's going to change on the internet, and so forth. All right, so let's do some mailbag here before we get to this video I want to show you and share with you later. Have a good listen of. So we got something from Scott here. What frustrates me about my memory is that it's sometimes a miracle that I'll recall something I've thought about for years, and other times I can't remember something I studied hard for 15 minutes. Well, Scott, that's a great point. And that is one of the mysteries of memory, is that you could just like have memories flood up out of nowhere. Memory's a lot like breathing and blinking in some senses. You can control your blinking, blink, 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 blink. And I mean, that's very good about blinking. But And you can control your breathing, which is very good about breathing, but memory's like that. It's very good that just thoughts can come up. Can also be a bit of a challenge that thoughts just come up. So one of the first things I would say is train your memory so that you don't have to study hard. When I just did this memory demonstration here, Scott, I know you're not on the call with us now, but I just memorized 4 dates, or 2 ranges of dates that involved 4 numbers. And I only had to do it once, and it wasn't hard. The recall was a little bit hard. Notice how that I, had a pen in hand and I was writing it down. That's part of helping it get into long-term memory, but I did it from memory, from the major, right? And as I did it, I realized that there are some improvements that I could make because I didn't have George Washington in every single part there. And I kind of got abstract in the bottom. It's just Cobra Commander which is Viper in the actual mnemonic, with Peter Parker and a puck, right? And I should have had George Washington in every single part of that, and I should have had him with some sort of signal of presidency versus the military commander-in-chief of the military part, right? So those specifics I should have, but you don't live your life on should have. What you do is you analyze what you could do better next time, and then you compound and add those details, and then it makes it faster and easier to recall it the next time. Because notice I had to pause there for a second. I got it back, and I was 100% accurate, which I love. That's what we're going for, right? 100%. One exposure to information with 100% accuracy of recall. But you gotta notice what it is that you could do better all the time. That's why we write, we implement, we teach, right? That's the WIT. W-I-T, the wit of memory. Write down what you're doing with your memory. Not that you're going to go to the written record to get it out of your head like that. You just want to be able to say those dates or those facts or those figures or phrases from a language or whatever you're learning, right? You don't write it down because you want to be tied or tethered to it. You write it down because it helps you get into memory, to wit, right? So write it down. And then, man, we're whipping it out with these acronyms. And then implement what you observe. So I observed that George Washington could have been much more integral to that image. And then teach. I'm teaching now. Isn't that great? I mean, I hope so. Hit the thumbs up if you agree. Let me know in the comments. If you're watching the replay, hit the thumbs up too as well. Leave comments on these videos. That really, really helps tell the robots that you care about this, and it will help preserve this tradition of learning with memory techniques, which is, I think, the purest way of learning that there is, and that there ever will be. It's not only the purest way of learning that there is, that there ever will be, but it is the future of humanity, for sure. I wrote a novel I haven't released yet called Electville that's all about this dark, dark place that we're going, and I think it's about time that I released it. Even though it's a little bit dark, and I don't really feel that dark. I actually feel very, very optimistic, but I think we need to raise our fist and yell a little bit, because there's some spooky things going on with the ghosts. I mean, the bots. Or are they ghosts? Well, we come to think of them as ghosts, but we become superstitious and paranoid about what's going on the internet because of the data and its analysis, right? Interesting stuff. By the way, if you haven't been to magneticmemorymethod.com, we released a new podcast episode. I'll have the link to that in the description below later. New podcast episode is all about 7 ways that you can use memory techniques for studying better. Please support this work by going and sharing that video. Go to magneticmemorymethod.com, just scroll down, you'll see Memory Improvement Blog, and you can click that new video or that new podcast, new blog post. It's all written there for you. There's a Memory Palace drawing there for you and some things that'll prompt you. Give it your due attention. If you're studying anything, there's 7 things for you there to consider, and that's at magneticmemorymethod.com. Maricella says, Anthony, I like the vibrant colors of your paintings. Future education, I know IEBS business education in Spain is a very advanced system. Okay, I'll try to make a mental note to check that out, and I can. IEBS. Yeah, thanks for mentioning the painting as well. This is, I'm not a professional artist, nor do I hope to be, but I'm always very interested in art and drawing and what it can do for memory, and I do a lot of memory work while I'm drawing, visiting memory palaces and reflecting and contemplating. Time for contemplation is really important. What's the point of having knowledge that you memorize if you don't contemplate it? This is the beauty of memory, right? You don't have to look in the book to mull the ideas around like fine wine. And then that's where you get ars combinatoria, the art of combination, right? Remember that, ars combinatoria. Beautiful word, beautiful. So let's see, Vanessa says, right. Well, thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate that. Let me all know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking. And back to Scott's email here, it is a miracle that you can recall something that you haven't thought about for years. But if you study in the right way, it doesn't have to be hard, and you can memorize anything. I'll never forget, just, a week ago, I met this guy in the street, and his name's Mark Hocknell, and he started to say his name. He said Mark, and I said Hocknell. And I mean, I don't necessarily, it is the miracle of memory. It's just that in this case, I memorized his name. I wish he hadn't fed me his first name, but this happens all the time. You'll meet people and you'll know their name, and you won't remember what mnemonics you used necessarily. Sometimes you'll remember what the mnemonics were, but other times you won't. But it doesn't matter as long as you remember the core information, right? That's what we're going for. That's what we're after. That's what's going to make a difference in the world. So that's really important. Anyway, Scott, thank you for your email, and keep them coming. Emails are very interesting to me. Humans communicating with humans, not the intervention of bots. I don't want bots. I mean, there is some auto response elements in my emails, but I do answer emails on a human basis. So someone's saying that speaking of email, they got my email, but they have poor Wi-Fi in the area, so the articles wouldn't open to get the 7 ways to improve memory, which is the new post and podcast on the Magnetic Memory Methods site. If you're interested, I'm going to post the link in the replay below. And, if you're not on my email list, please do make sure that you are, so we can communicate, make sure you're interacting with those emails, because the bots are going to filter them out. If you're not showing engagement, they're going to just stop sending them to you. And if it's important to you, if it's not important to you, no problem. There's no obligation, but just understand that the quality of your education and the quality of the people that are working to communicate with you is in your hands. You have to meet them halfway. All right, so we got another one here. This person says, I am not getting enough time to sit down and do this properly. And yeah, time is something we all deal with, Dave. And what you got to do is you have to prioritize and think what's really important to you. Do you care about the life of your mind, or you don't? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you invested in a memory improvement book or a memory improvement program and you actually said yes to knowledge, right? If you haven't actually done that, you're not serious about improving your memory. If you're just sitting there consuming stuff, then you might as well call it meat, right? MEAT, meaningless education, absurdly thriving. There's no such thing as free memory training. No such thing. You're going to invest time, energy, and money at some level if you want the real deal. It's just the way that it is. And so if you can't find the time for it, then, time is money, right? So even if you're not spending money, the time that you're spending on memory training is going to make you money in the future, or it isn't. Or it's going to get you an exam, stellar results on an exam that you're going to pass, or it isn't. But you're going to invest in it. That's what memory training is. That's what memory improvement is. It is putting in the time to get the result, to be able to do things, to do real magic with your mind, right? With your memory, so that you can be more proficient, and that you can be more proficient consistently, right? As you grow and grow your knowledge. If you're not into it, no problem. Don't think that anybody is going to really to be all worried and concerned, other than me. I'm always worried and concerned that anybody out there doesn't have these memory techniques. But in the scope of things, life goes on. I'd certainly like everybody to have these techniques, but if you're not willing to prioritize and find the time and sit down and just master this stuff and practice consistently, well, but if you are, let me know. Let me know either in the chat or in the discussion post on the replay of this. I'm always just fascinated what people have done with the training, what books they have, what videos they've watched, and then more importantly, what they've done with the actual material, right? Because if you don't do, nothing's going to happen. Doing, DOC, doing is the origin of confidence. Doing is the origin of consistency. Doing is the origin of creativity. Any creativity that you ever need, if you're thinking, oh, well, how am I going to create a 00 to 99 based out of that? Guess what? You're going to do it by doing it. That's how. And it just you'll understand all these techniques by doing them. And there's no shame in not doing it if you don't want to. Not everybody has to. But if you have said, yes, I want this, then whatever it is that's holding you back, let me know. Let's see if we can get you past it, because that's all I care about, is getting people into the techniques, because the techniques work, and they work for everybody. There is nobody on the planet who can't use these techniques. I don't believe it, unless there's brain damage or some sort of disease. We're going to play this video here coming up and see where the state of education is. Maricella says, Anthony, tomorrow I will have my NeoThink Clubhouse, as each of on the 15th of every month. It is all about business, government, art, and health. I will do some readings with whoever wants to listen to me. This is, waiting for more for you to complete your thought there. Sounds exciting, Maricella. Keep them coming. If you're joining us now, this is a very good session here. Thanks for being here. Hit the thumbs up. Let me know in the world where you are. I'm looking forward to the rest of Maricella's update here in the chat. Be involved, be engaged. Let me know what's going on. I got an email here from Benjamin. Benjamin says the replay wasn't available of the live stream. Well, yeah, some of my live streams, there are no replays of those because they're for people who show up. But I'm sorry you missed it, Ben. And says very glad that you are memorizing things in Mandarin, and I am wondering about memorizing songs in other languages as well. I imagine it's much more difficult to memorize things in a demonstration than it is in private, but I appreciate you walking us through how you would do it and sharing one of those parts yourself. Thank you. Well, thank you, Ben, for the kind words. I appreciate that. You know, it was one of those things where you got to put yourself on the line sometimes, you know, and really do this stuff. And you don't have to as a beginner, but at some point what you want to be doing is moving towards actually some kind of real life thing. So I remember when I first learned German and, you know, getting into speaking, it's not the easiest thing under the sun, but how do you do it? You do it, right? And then it unlocks things. Like one of the things that's so important about the Chinese session that we had on the last live stream, which if you haven't seen that, watch the replay, and that'll be worth it. That's still available. I think that we'll leave it there, but I'm glad that Ben was there for the live thing. But part of how you would ever gain proficiency is the muscle memory of the mouth, right? So I need to do that. And, you know, I don't normally do my Chinese stuff live on a YouTube stream, but I thought it'd be fun to invite you all for that. And I'm so glad that people were there. And then the heat was on, because that second line, I was just like, oh my goodness. And it's a great demonstration of what you need to do when something doesn't come, right? Now, pulled it off, right? But what do you do when you don't pull it off? Well, that's part of the slings and arrows, my friends. Part of the slings and arrows. Anybody know where that little slings and arrows comes from? Let me know in the chat if you do, if you want to get engaged. And if you just want to hit the thumbs up, let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking. That's great as well. Maricella continues. This is to improve our lives. Yes, well, focus on the information that will improve your life. You might not always know what that information is, but it's there. It's there. So focus on it. Focus on it. Use it. Use it to learn memory techniques, and use the memory techniques to learn the information. Perfect circle. Perfect circle. I love perfect circles. So again, Ben, thank you for what you said there, and we'll maybe do some more memorizing live in the future. And try and make this more real to you, to what, whoa, look at this email. Wow, well, I have to pre-read this one. This one's super long. So that one we'll answer in private. Wow. I love the long emails, though. All these people who like have two-word sentences, I don't get it. All right, so this is Nathan here. I love to improve my mind, and I have a decently good memory naturally and want to take it further. I'm so interested in memory palaces. I've used techniques such as making up stories or sayings or acronyms to remember things, but I'd never thought to use buildings. So excited to learn the magnetic memory method. Well, thank you, Nathan. Yeah, buildings are huge. Buildings are huge. Once you understand spatial memory, boom, next level. Mind blown, as they say on some of the videos. Really fun, really fun. All right, so let's see here. This one does not have a name, but one of these future names. We're in the future now. We're in the present future. But no name for this person. What frustrates me about my memory is the fact that I still forget basic information such as names, even sometimes of family members. I sometimes forget days, names, basics, and sometimes vital information I'm supposed to remember. Well, if you're just joining us now, you can watch the replay, see me recite 4 dates from this book. It's pretty easy. It took me about 2 to 3 minutes to encode all that, got it back with 100% accuracy. Approximately an hour and a half later, I had a call with a mentor of mine, and that was awesome for my own personal training, because when you invest in training, you improve, and it's very, very good to spend time with the teachers who actually do what you do. And I was on the call with someone who does what I do, and he's so good at it, and got some personal mentoring. And so that's one thing to do, and then you can do it. You can do it as well. It's not to touch the cloth or anything like that, if you know that metaphor, but it is just so magical and magnetic, you might say, because people who are more powerful than you can pull you towards where you want to go. So that was great. Meant that about an hour and a half went past before I actually did my first rehearsal, and pretty solid now. The forgetting curve is going to, of course, be working against it, and so I'm going to take care to make sure that I do rehearse it as no magic number of times, but we'll get it real good and tested and go from there. It's very, very, very simple. So if you're just joining us, hit that thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world, and train yourself to just do that automatically so I don't have to say it every 10 seconds. All right, because once that this is a recording, then I am sort of like the bot that I'm talking against, aren't I? I've canned and cloned myself, which is an interesting thing to talk about in this mix. And of course, the live replays do not make nearly as much sense as being there. And that's one of the reasons why these bots that I encountered today really, well, quite frankly, upset me. And it's really, really important to let yourself be upset when you're upset, and to really think these issues through, because the future of education affects everybody to come in the human species. And if we care about ourselves, we're going to care about the future, because we're all going to get old, and we're all going to deal with those young people, and how we're treated by those young people is going to be a direct reflection of what we did to care for the human knowledge that we've had so far, and the values in that knowledge, and to really, really get it forward and through to them. So it's one of the reasons why I do the work that I do. And here's from Robert telling me that I just want to let you know that I'm really happy, as I used my first memory palace to memorize 41 criteria for a teacher assessment scheme, and it took me only 1.5 hours to encode. 41! Wow, amazing. I then asked one of my colleagues to test me by asking me random criteria, and it was exciting. I was able to decode all the information, and my colleague was really impressed. I told her about the magnetic memory method too. Anyway, just wanted to share my excitement with you. Woo, Robert! Congratulations. That's amazing. So 100% recall of 41 pieces of information and only 1.5 hours. That is amazing. That is absolutely incredible, except for it also isn't. It's not incredible at all. It's exactly what you would expect if you're smart and you're using memory techniques instead of the hard way with dumb index cards, rote learning, or some silly app. Just sit down and do it, and you will get results like that. And don't leave it to the machines. Don't leave it to traditional rote learning. Don't leave it to all those other things. I mean, yeah, they have their help and so forth, but magnetic memory method takes it to the next level. And I'm so glad that Robert shared this with us. If you didn't see Lee Escobar and the testimonial video we released earlier this week, man, he's cruising along. We're talking like, you know, rooms with 300 people or so. His goal is for all 300 names at his live events, and he's pushing 200 names. 200 names with one exposure, right? It's so easy. It's so easy if you just dive in and start to do this stuff. And you you do it the magnetic memory method way. I'm confident that it'll work for you, because magnetic memory method can't fail because it's a method. It's not a system. It teaches you how to create the system that's going to work for you, because you are different than anybody else. There are no systems you're going to borrow from anybody else. But if you know the method and the procedure, then that's the sweet spot. That's how you're going to get it. Julie says, great watching Escobar. Yeah, it is really great. And his excitement and his enthusiasm is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Oh, this is an email from a really advanced student in the magnetic memory method. And he has really great and compelling questions. I almost feel like I need to make a whole new course just for him. And the subject line here is ambitious goals. So I'm going to read that in private. But I really love when you guys come with your ambitious goals. There is a solution. And to get the tailor-made teaching, make sure you're in the masterclass, because there's a lot. And you get to share in the tailor-made teaching for other people as well in the FAQ section. So I'm going to need to go through that in private. But really love that when people have subject lines like ambitious goals, and they actually have the training, and they know what they're doing, they know why they're doing it, and they already know a lot about how they're going to do it. So we get to have a much more elevated chat together about strategy and strategize. And, you know, we had that email earlier about time and not finding the time for it. And that was from Dave. Well, you know, do you really want it or don't you? My dad used to have a saying that I won't repeat right now, but it basically meant, you know, do it or do not. There is no try. It just had a lot of swearing in it. But I love that saying from my dad. It's really great. Wisdom. There's wisdom in it as well, not anything less. So Zorana says, I'm 62. I forget things all the time. However, the most frustrating thing right now is it takes me days to learn to conjugate 5 irregular Spanish verbs. Literally days. I speak 2 foreign languages, but I learned them young. Well, it should not take you days to conjugate 5 irregular Spanish verbs. 5 at age 62. I don't know you. I don't know your work ethic. I don't know your discipline. I don't know your intent, Zorana. However, what I do know is if you want to reduce that dramatically so that you're doing 2 to 3 a day for beginners, come see me at magneticmemorymethod.com, and we'll get you sorted. So that's pretty easy. Pretty easy. We've had the oldest person that I've worked with was 88, and I was working with him, and I was like, come on, pick poetry or German. What is it? He's like, I want them both. And I was like, well, you know what they say about the hunter who hunts 2 rabbits at the same time. And he said, yeah, well, I want to be that rare hunter who catches both rabbits. And I said, well, okay, well, then you either got to get good with 2 rifles and shooting at 2 targets at the same time, or you need to build a trap that catches the one rabbit while you're out shooting the other one with a gun or arrows or whatever. And he's like, oh, I like that. You can do that? And I was like, well, of course, right? But it's different skills. It's the skill for trapping rabbits versus the skill for hunting rabbits. Trapping is not really hunting in the same way that hunting is hunting. And yes, you can have those 2 things going on. Think about it as the ability to memorize numbers versus the ability to memorize names. Well, one is different than the other. It's not the same as hunting versus trapping, but you know what I'm saying. And when you have skills in both, then you begin to imagine how things can work together much better. So conjugation and all that sort of stuff, if you know how to memorize phrases and you know how to memorize numbers, actually, then those can help together, because there's Memory Palace solutions for irregular and regular verbs, and there are numerical elements that if you have the 2 working together, boom, boom, boom. But you need the foundations first. So let's work on the foundations, and we'll see what we can do to get you started and help you. All right, so we've got some new thumbnails to check out. Great. Got lots of things going on. And that is a request from a friend to see if I can help him, and you know what? I probably can. And yeah, so I wanted to play this video for you. So why don't we have a listen to this, And I think this is really important. If you're just joining us, hit the thumbs up. Let me know what you're doing, what you're thinking. I don't have a proper setup right now, but we're working on a better setup for these lives. But for now, let's just have a listen together. And we'll do it this way. But I highly recommend that you study this well if you care about the future of education.
I live at 563 Alrose Street here in Green Bay. I have been a teacher in your district for the past 12 years. I came to work at Washington Middle School 9 years ago because I wanted to work with at-risk kids and kids in need. That is my calling in life. It's what I was made to do, and I'm good at it. I won the Golden Apple Award a few years ago, and I am consistently rated excellent by my administrators, supervisors, students, and parents. Teaching 6th grade reading at Washington was my dream job. I am here today because it is with great sadness that I inform you of my resignation from Green Bay Public Schools. Washington has been in a downward spiral for a long time, but has been deteriorating rapidly over the past 5 years, and rapidly during this school year. I fear for my safety every day. I am equally afraid for the safety of my colleagues, and most importantly, my students. We are in danger every day when we show up to our school. Students and staff are physically, verbally, emotionally, mentally, and sexually abused every single day in the building. This environment cannot be allowed to continue. Our students have the right to go to school and be safe, and your employees have the right to go to work and be safe. None of us are safe right now. We are sworn at and called vile, crude, and sexual names every day. I have a list here of horrifying things that were said to your employees and your students in just the last 2 days. It fills a page. I struggled with whether or not to read this list to you. In order for you to grasp the abuse we are experiencing, I wanted you to feel how we feel when these things are said to us. However, I couldn't bring myself to say them out loud because they are so disgusting. Ultimately, you have to know that these things are said to your employees and your children all day, every day. This constant verbal abuse takes a toll on our bodies and minds. It's devastating that I can't bring myself to say things out loud that I have to listen to day in and day out at my workplace. In addition to verbal abuse, the people at Washington are getting injured more than ever. I thought it would take someone getting seriously injured before necessary changes would happen. But then, just a couple weeks ago, a teacher was taken away in an ambulance with a bleeding head wound caused by a fight among 3 students. Another teacher was physically attacked by students trying to set off a deadly allergic reaction on purpose, causing her throat to close and her to struggle to breathe. A student was held down on a table and his legs put into vice grips so that other students could take his shoes. A student had his pants and underwear pulled down, exposing him in a crowded hallway of students. Another student approached a group of teachers and pulled his pants down and touched himself inappropriately, while laughing at their request to stop. Male and female students this year are slapped on the buttocks, pitched in the chest, kicked in the groin. Just last week, 2 students laid on a table in the classroom and kissed each other heavily and pretended to have sex while a substitute teacher tried to get them to stop. All of those things I just mentioned happened in the month of May. I have a list that I will give to you of more. We've had fires set in the school, weapons brought in, drugs sold and used, and still it's not enough. Just last week, a student told multiple people, multiple times that, quote, "I'm going to shoot up everyone in this school." Is it going to take someone getting killed for you to finally take the drastic action that is needed? Our district says that we value health and wellness, but our work environment has become so toxic, it is literally making us sick. I have numerous colleagues out on extended leave due to stress. It's a vicious cycle because we cannot get substitute teachers to come to our building. So every single day we are asked to cover the classes of our colleagues who are out. This perpetuates the cycle because we are thrown into classes with kids we don't know, sometimes with no lesson plans or rosters, given no support, and then have all our preparation time taken away from our own classes. This compounds the stress put on us and makes us even sicker. One of my colleagues has headaches every single weekday and is taking medication. Another one wakes up with cold night sweats several times a week. One had nightmares for days after being threatened by an aggressive student. Another person, one of my teachers, wakes up every single Sunday night around 2 a.m. and throws up in anticipation of the work week starting. We have heard of more teachers now than ever before being treated for anxiety, depression, stress, and the related health concerns that working at Washington brings. I comfort coworkers who are crying daily. We exhibit symptoms of PTSD because we live in trauma from 7:30 to 3 o'clock every single day. Just the other day, I broke down after I witnessed an 8th grade student in the office screaming and swearing at a staff member about his cell phone being taken away. This boy, was in my class in 6th grade. He had never been in any trouble, never had an office referral, great student, polite young man, happy. But every day for the last 2.5 years, he has lived in the chaos that we adults have allowed to exist at his school. And he sees that the only way to survive in this environment is to be aggressive. He saw my jaw drop open at his behavior, and his face crumpled, and he started to cry instead of scream, because he is not this person. We created this person because of the environment we forced him to be a part of day in and day out. Sadly, he's not the only child who has changed for the worse because of the education they are receiving at Washington. Their education teaches them the skills needed to survive in our school: swearing, screaming, skipping class, hurting people. That's the only way kids survive at Washington right now. Kids who do not learn these tactics are being tormented daily. I look out to the faces of students in my classroom and I see fear in their eyes. I have instructed my students not to answer the door to our classroom because of the truant students who run the school and come looking for fights. They pound on our doors, shake our door handles, scream swear words into our vents, punch and kick the doors, and terrorize us while we are trying to teach and learn. And these are just some of the many violent and aggressive behaviors that my kids have to deal with every day. Just a few weeks ago, some of you on the school board may have received a list detailing a 2-week period of the horrifying conditions that we are experiencing. And since that time, we have seen an increased presence of district office administrators who come to our school to try to help with crowd control for the remaining weeks of the year. That has helped, but it's not enough. It is a Band-Aid to help us survive the last few weeks. It does not bring about the change that is needed. 2 weeks ago, we had a staff meeting, and many of you were there on Wednesday after school in our cafeteria. And we talked about all the things that we as teachers are going to do differently to improve the conditions in our school. But I did not hear from any district personnel what they are going to do differently. We need to hear from you. What are you going to do differently to improve the conditions in our school? Dr. Langenfeld, what are you going to do differently? Mr. Ho, Mr. Magus, my principal, the other administrators, your teachers and students are abused, harassed, violated, and put in danger every single day. What are you all going to do differently that will change the next year for us? As our school board, it is your job to get answers to these questions. Now our staff heard on Friday that you are doing the exact same thing that got us into this mess by pulling another one of our administrators and sending him to a different school this fall. We have not had the same administrative staff once since I have been at Washington. We have had 7 different principals in 6 years. Even a thriving school could not succeed in those conditions. Our at-risk school has no chance of survival if drastic action is not taken now. An at-risk school like us needs more consistency, not less. We need more attention, more support, and more help long-term. We need real solutions that come from above. That's you. Along with the money and people resources to make those solutions a reality. We got an email from our principal on Friday with a few personnel resources that you will be adding at Washington for the 17-18 school year. But just adding more people hours is not enough either. Systemic change around how our school is treated by the district is required. We need the best. We need you to have the best people in position with incentives for them to stay at Washington, to be a part of a long-term solution. If you have to pay them more, then do it. Figure out a way to give us the best of the best, and then figure out a way to keep them. Our kids deserve it. You ask us to differentiate in the classroom, so differentiate for our school. We are in crisis. We need you to give us everything you've got. We need smaller class sizes. We need a different approach to the special education push-in programming. We need correct placement of students who have aggressive and violent psychological problems that we cannot deal with. We need you to follow the student handbook that you have created. Section 443.7 of the student handbook policy states that students who commit aggressive or violent behavior shall be required to seek an initial screening and ongoing counseling and provide written evidence of this counseling to the principal within 1 month of their offense. Simply following through with that one rule would be a huge start to making positive change for us. Enforcing the following policy in the handbook for students with subsequent violent violations would be another way for you to make positive change for us. Start this long-term change process by committing to following through with the consequences that you already have. We need swift action from downtown, and we need a no-tolerance policy for this abusive behavior in our school. Let me make it very clear that I am not here to look backwards for blame. I am here to look forward for solutions. Our current administrators are doing the best they can. They inherited a huge mess, and they were not given the tools or the resources or the freedom to do what needs to be done to clean it up. This toxic situation has been a long time in the making, and I know it cannot be fixed overnight or by one person. But as a wise person in my life says, nothing changes if nothing changes. What are you going to change in order to change the future of this school? I would not survive another year in the toxic setting at Washington. I must resign, even though I have a broken heart, because I cannot survive in this unhealthy and unsafe environment any longer. I am here now to speak for the people who will remain there and continue to try to survive in this dangerous school and work setting every day. We need answers. Our kids deserve answers. If your children came home from school and told you just one of the things I told you today, wouldn't you demand answers? You, as our school board, must demand answers on our behalf. Thank you for your time.
Well, what do you think? It's pretty intense, right? Very important, very important. There's something missing, though. There's a couple of things missing in what she said. Of course, it wasn't her express purpose to say them, but I think we can note that they're there, and we can call back to this book. But one of the things that's missing there is the parents, right? You have to, you need to. But what about the parents? They're not mentioned there at all. But there's something in this book that I also found inspiring beyond just memorizing the dates like we did earlier on this live stream. When the world changes, change the world, right? And the world is changing. So that means we need to change the world. We need to get together. We need to figure it out. And memory is obviously part of the cure here. And what's not being mentioned in that video is the role of the parents. And so when people say these techniques should be taught in schools and so forth, I always say no, at least not that it should be in the responsibility of the schools. It should be that the parents are learning them themselves and demonstrating them to the children, and then demonstrating what real knowledge can do. All right? And if I'm wrong in that in any way, let me know. But at the end of the day, it's reliance on, and I'm interested in George Washington here on leadership and so forth, but it's reliance on external forces like governments and so forth that got us into this trouble. And so you cannot fix the problems with the things that created the problems in the first place. So we have to focus, no matter what, on the parents using these techniques and demonstrating them for the children, but not only just demonstrating the techniques with random memory stunts and, oh, well, I memorized pi or whatever, but actually information that improves your life so that you have mastery over topics, so that you have expertise, so that you can inspire them when you walk into a room and you remember the names of all the people there, so they become better social networkers, so that they become more competent in society in terms of making things happen in their lives and having the resources that they need when they need them, because they can communicate better. They have knowledge of things. They don't, feel stupid because they can't remember stuff, right? That's so critical to success in life. But they have access to it. They have knowledge. They have alternative paths to information because of that memory reserve that we were talking about earlier with the glass bowl and the stones in the sand, ever expanding, shifting, sorting, sifting, screening, connections being made. Imagine now in that glass bowl and the sand and the stones that there's life, that there's something rhizomatic where bulbs are connecting through lateral networks, through diagonal networks, through horizontal networks, through vertical networks, and it's just boom, boom, boom. Knowledge is connecting and reconnecting and fortifying as this memory reserve builds and builds and builds in the human mind and protects that mind from the damage of time as the brain, the physical brain, wears down, protects that mind over time as exposure to pollution wears it down, and so on. So we want to be very, very certain that we're using these memory techniques not just as such, but to make mastery over knowledge so that we can demonstrate the value of knowledge itself, right? So that's it for today, everybody. Thank you for being here. I hope you found this useful in multiple ways, more than just one. And, let me know what's going on with you. Check out the latest podcast at magneticmarymethod.com. If you're interested in what I memorized from this book, check out the replay. Maricela says education is a responsibility of every individual. That is very much so. And not only is the responsibility of every individual, but it is going to be even more so because of how things are changing. So again, when the world changes, change the world. That's one of the most important things. In addition to what I memorized of the dates, I want to never forget that. When the world changes, change the world. And I am going to look, to George Washington for help on being a better leader myself of this particular work that I do. And I just want to thank you all who are here and engaged for being here and engaged. And if you haven't checked out the latest podcast at magneticmarymethod.com, head on over there. It's pretty clear where to find it. And if you're not on if you haven't taken the free course, make sure you get it at magneticmarymethod.com/YT and learn these skills. They're really easy, they're really simple, and they're a lot of fun. And all you need to do is put a little bit of time into it, and you will master them much quicker than you'd ever imagine possible. You just got to dive in and remember that doing is the origin of confidence with them, and it's the origin of all the creativity you would ever need. It's the origin of all the consistency you would ever need, because it's going to prove to you how well that it works. You are going to be so astonished. So if you're still sitting on the fence and you haven't learned this stuff, dive in, or at least let me know what it is that's standing between you and getting those results, because we can almost certainly provide you with a solution. So thanks again, everybody, and until we speak again, keep yourself magnetic and visit me at magneticmarymethod.com. Bye-bye.